Hey everybody, Blugoblin here, here on my main channel for my latest Midtown Comics Stash episode. I'm here to review 4 books sent to me by Midtown Comics and one of my best friends in the world, my bro, my student, TheMtVernonKid. Chris, thank you, and thank you once again, and thank you Midtown Comics for these books. So, without further ado, let's go ahead and get started. We're gonna, see, we got this in alphabetical order? Yes. Okay, first book we got is from DC Entertainment. This is Masters of the Universe, The Origin of Hordak one-shot. Giffen, Keen, and Koblish, to everybody who worked on this book, you did a fantastic job. This origin is really dark, really action heavy, and it's more or less a fight between what this basically is it's not really the birth. When I think origin, I think of, backstory involving childhood, growing up, stuff like that. Now, this pretty much was how Hordak came into power and how he began his assault on Eternia, or whatever they were going for. This wasn't really, in my eyes, this wasn't really a true 100% full thought origin of Hordak. All this was just explaining how he came into power. And there you see down there his brother. This whole issue is basically him fighting his brother, and it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out that Hordak wins the fight. But it was a proper representation of good versus evil. Very, very well done. Loved the dialogue in here. The drama was really good. The character of Hordak himself was made to look really badass. It's almost if DC wants to make Hordak a bigger deal than Skeletor, and me being a child of the 80s, I grew up with He-Man, I grew up with the Masters of the Universe, and when it came to Skeletor and Hordak, I always preferred Skeletor. Skeletor was, to me, in my eyes, the better villain, but it seems that DC really wants to push Hordak on us, and I think they're doing a good job with what they're doing. Now, before I put this aside, I have to show something in here that made me laugh. Hordak's winning the fight. I know I just spoiled the hell out of this book, but it's the origin of Hordak, how he came into power, how else, you knew what was going to happen. But we come to a certain point after the fight is won. Spoiler alert, he absorbs his brother into him, and his brother says, "I'm trying to reject you," and he's like, and Hordak just figuratively says, "I figured as much." But you get down here, he's going up the corridor, up the stairwell, and wouldn't you know it? Let's see if I can get the lighting on there. He's Batman! Hordak is Batman! Hordak's shadow is Batman! Oh, God. That made me geek out, but in a funny way. Funny, haha. This was hilarious. This was good. This was really good. That one touch of comedy made it even better for me. Good origin. All around, very nicely done. Alright, next up we got Mega Man, issue number 26, In the Skull Egg Zone. I freaking love that cover. That cover is awesome. And once again, this is a big treat for me, and I'm sure Chris will agree with me. As children of the 80s, this is like Nintendo and Sega working together. Because when you were a kid growing up in the 80s, what did you play Mega Man on? That's right, the Nintendo Entertainment System. And you played Sonic on Sega Genesis. This is basically Nintendo and Sega working together, even though it's Capcom and Sega. But it's a showdown in the Skull Egg Zone. This was fun. This was really good. I loved the writing. I loved the interior artwork, although I gotta say, I prefer the cover art to the interior art. But the interior art was good for what it was. This is part 7 of the 12-part series of Worlds Collide. I gotta say, I loved everything in here. I didn't hardly find any flaws other than minor nitpicks, regarding the art and everything. But this was so much fun. I freaking loved the Shadow Man conflict. It's like you take Shadow Man, I'll take the other guy. Wait a minute, that was the other guy. No, that was Shadow Man. No, that's the other. No, it's like Tails is like, they're both called Shadow Man. Great. This was great. And I especially loved the reference to those. Remember playing Mega Man back in the NES days, and you came to those parts in the level where you see those blocks that go boo, 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 boo. You remember those annoying blocks that you had to jump on and time it just right? Didn't those just annoy the piss out of you? There's even a reference to that. Fucking A! That was awesome! That spoke to me! A child of the 80s. It spoke to me. Thank you, Archie Comics. Thank you for referencing that. That was my favorite part of the book. And all the while, Robotnik and Dr. Wily are still scheming very well together. I'm still loving how they just click with each other. You would think that their egos would get in the way of each other and they would be antagonizing each other. No, they get along. And that's a welcome switch. It's certainly not the stereotypical direction you would think they would go. Plus, we get another character finally showing herself. Yes, it's a her, and I'll stop it right there. Another character showing herself in this story finally for the first time that I've seen her. But at the end, it kind of sort of has a dun 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 kind of cliffhanger at the end, but it's very nicely done. This was fun. I really enjoyed this. I'm loving this miniseries, this story involving Mega Man and Sonic. I mean, God, this should have been done a long time ago. This was great. Loved it. Loved it. All right. Next up, we got back to DC Comics. We're talking about Superman Unchained #1. Scott Snyder, Jim Lee, with Scott Williams and Dustin Nugent. I hope I pronounced the last name right. I'm sorry if I butchered it. But here it is, the big first issue of Superman Unchained. I gotta say, I haven't been reading much Superman stuff. I tried Action Comics for a while, but Grant Morrison's storytelling, in all honesty, bored me. I tried the Superman series. George Perez started it, and then it went to Scott Lobdell and everything, and it just... and don't even get me started on Jeff Johns with the Justice League stuff. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and safely say that. Now, this is an argument, but it's my opinion, okay? It's my opinion. This was, New 52-wise, the best Superman writing I have ever read. This, DC, this is how you write a Superman comic. You don't need to write him as an overwhelming dictator of a god. You don't have to write him trying to be clumsy. You don't have to write him trying to be naive. Write him the way he's supposed to be. The hero who always thinks of everything, who is the Boy Scout, and even Clark Kent was done very well in here. Everything about this book just clicked. Now, I also will say this is one of the most bizarre Superman structured books that I've read. We got this ginormous poster that you got to unfold just to read the story. But it's also, I guess, it's another way of DC saying, hey, Jim Lee's a really good artist. Get the hint? I guess that's why the book was $5. But I loved everything about this. This was great. And I'm not the world's biggest Superman fan. This is how you write a Superman book. Superman and Clark Kent come off, finally, for the first time that I've seen in the New 52, they both come off as two different characters in here, and it's really well done. Usually when I would see Clark, you would see him, just looking like Clark, but he's still thinking like Superman, or he's always like depressed, or he's always lonesome, or anything like that. In here we got Clark Kent wisecracking with Jimmy Olsen, or Jim as he calls him in here. We got him wisecracking. It's like, hey, these are corn donuts. They're really yellow. That's cute, Jim. And The phone conversation he has with Lois, it clicked very well for me. It was very well done. Lex Luthor was done very nicely in here. If I had anything to really nitpick about in here, is that I didn't really like the ending with that big reveal, and I'm not even gonna, that's where I'm gonna leave it. I didn't really like the ending because when it comes to Superman comics, it's this kind of ending or this kind of cliffhanger has kind of been done to death. And you know, for a brand new Superman series, I expected a different style of ending. Now, the second story was really well done too. All in all, I'd say this was a solid beginning to Superman Unchained. I'm glad Chris and Midtown Comics sent this to me. Otherwise, I would have simply just went and passed on it. I'm glad they sent this to me, and I'm glad I read it. This was really good. It wasn't perfect, but it was without question the best Superman book I've read from the New 52. Without question. We're going to end this with Dark Horse Comics. We're going to end this with X number 2. Not much to say about this one. The title of the book's FaceTime. This was graphic. This was graphic. We're getting more and more of this character here. I believe her name was Leah. And she's an unemployed journalist who does internet journalism. Yeah, that's really popular now. But we're getting to see more and more how X operates. We get to see more and more what X is willing to do to get his point across. And god damn it, this was gruesome. This was gruesome. Oh my god. I don't even want to give hints at what he does in here. Jesus, this was violent, but if you're one of those comic book readers who likes violent and graphic stuff, you're going to love the hell out of this. This was good stuff. Now, one thing I will say about this character, I like her. She's kind of spunky, she seems intelligent, but at the same time, she's kind of got that April O'Neil-ish effect, you know. It's like, you know, she's smart, and you know she tries to do what it is she believes in and everything, but you know deep down inside she's going to end up being the damsel in distress a lot, especially considering the cliffhanger at the end of the book. Holy shit, she's in trouble. This was good. This was very nicely done. I loved the writing. Dwayne Straczynski did a really good job. Dustin Eugen did a great job with the artwork. This was violent, this was gritty, it was gory, but it told the story and advanced the story even further, and it told us a little bit more about the characters. This was great. Loved it. Alright. Well, that's it for this edition of that's it for the Midtown Comics Stash episode. I want to thank y'all for joining me. Follow my student, TheMtVernonKid. Subscribe to my second channel, Blugoblin X. That's where my main comic book reviews are at right now. Follow me on Twitter or on Tumblr. Don't forget about everybody at Dark Avenger Inc. Plus. Thanks again for watching, everybody, and I'll see you all later.